So in order to use your own designs, custom graphics in SynthEdit, you need to install them in the skins folder. Switch to my desktop here. And the skins folder is deep inside the public folder, which is on this PC C drive, users, public documents, SynthEdit projects, skins. This may be different for Windows XP or 7, depending on where your user files are. However, they are in the public. There's been discussion about changing this. The developer of SynthEdit might decide to change this, as this is a pretty arbitrary place to be placing files. So I'm going to quickly start up SynthEdit. And I start a new project and bring in just a minimal example here. And we're going to hold Shift, double click to go inside the structure view, and right click panel edit to see the panel view. Now if we right click here, we can go to skin, and this the same folders that we had here. Now in order to make a new skin, best practice would be to copy the default here. So I'm just going to click that and Control C and Control V. And I'm going to rename this minimal. Alright. And as this is the default, this is all the default graphics here. I'm just going to quickly read the README file that's inside here. Making your own skins. Do not change the default skin. Add a new folder to the skins directory. The folder name is your new skins name. Copy any of the skin bitmaps you want to change to your new directory. Each bitmap has a text file with the same name. It describes the skin. The mask file is optional. It contains transparency information. A simpler way to use transparency is the keyword transparent_pixel_xy in the text file. This tells SynthEdit which pixel contains the transparent color. Then use a paint program to edit each of the bitmap files. Keep your new skins the same size as the originals. This allows you to change skins without having to rearrange all of your controls. You may need to restart SynthEdit to see your changes. Font face size and color are controlled by the file global text. Image options, mouse response. Click vertical rotary, horizontal stepped reversed. Alright, so I already went over the folder inside of the skins directory. And I copied the bitmaps. I just pretty much copied everything. I'm not 100% fluent in the transparency. I just use PNG. I believe the transparency is for BMP files. I just use regular transparency in PNGs. And for the point program, I'll be using a program called Knobman. And this is free software. I'll put the link in the description. And image options, mouse response. This is how the mouse is going to respond here. So I'm just going to delete my previous demonstrations and start up Knobman. And I'm going to go back to the skins folder here. We got minimal. However, it's currently not showing up in the skins list. I need to restart SynthEdit. But before I do that, I'm going to save this as right on my desktop. We'll call this minimal graphics example. And I need a quick BRB. Okay, so I wanted to make sure I wasn't using the wrong microphone. So yeah, I'm gonna restart SynthEdit here. Just gonna close this, and it should default to Knobman here. Go ahead and reopen that. Reopen minimal graphics example. And yeah, now we should see in the skins list minimal. So now that we have that selected, we're gonna head over to Knobman. And in Knobman, we have our preferences. We need to set the height and the width. And if we go back to the skins folder, we can see in the text file for the we're going to replace the medium knob here and type animated frame size 32 by 32 mouse response rotary. So I prefer vertical. This is modern standard, pretty much vertical. Every response should be vertical. And if we look at the graphic file here, it's actually the knob slowly turning. It's a stitched image, so each one of these is a key of 32 by 32. I'm just going to close that head into Knobman, and we're going to make this 32, and because it has ratio snap, it should automatically update, but it didn't. Okay, there it is. And we want a stitched image, so that's how it is here. Preview frames 5, render frames 31. I do believe the stitched image that we're just looking at is 25. So we are going to change this to 25. Now we're going to remove this layer. Just going to click this layer 3 and remove. Okay. We'll start with our base layer, and we want just a quick sphere. And this isn't a tutorial for Knobman. I'm just quickly putting together a demonstration knob or a demonstration graphic to use. Knobman is a pretty advanced tool, pretty much tailored to SynthEdit. I'm going to grab a lightish blue here. And just a quick demonstration of some of the power that Knobman has. We go to the specular here, and we give the sphere a bit of a shine. And there's many other tools here. However, I'm just going to continue on. We need now a indicator. So we're going to go to layer 2, which would be on top layer 1, and we're going to use line. And we can see kind of a line showed up here. It's hard to see because it's dark. So we're going to turn that up to white and make it a bit thicker. We'll say width 25. So now we can see the line. And we want to kind of keyframe it here. We can keyframe by rotation here. We'll start with the starting angle. We'll go, say, negative 180, and then we'll add 45 back, I believe. So that'll bring it to 135. And then our mapping here, our interpolation will be straight linear. And you can get different interpolations with the animation curves here. So we're going to go plus 135. So now we can see distinctly the indicator is moving. We can test that by using this test button here. And we can click and drag, demonstrate quickly what's going on. And if we want to see all of them, we go back to preferences and go preview frames 25. There we can see all of the steps. However, 5 is good enough for now. Now we want to save. We're just going to quickly save this knob. I'm going to save it right to the desktop. We'll call this knob underscore med.knob, and the .knob file is the default file for KnobMaker here, or Knobman. And we want to export the image. So it looks like we're already in the minimal directory, and we want to replace the knob that's currently there. So knob medium, save, already exists. Do you want to replace? Yes. All right, so now if we head over to SynthEdit and not OBS, and if we bring in a regular control, let's grab the slider, and we can change that to knob. Okay, it doesn't look any different here because this is a structure here, but if we head over to the panel view, we can see that it is in fact changed. And this was only because we changed the file in the minimal folder here. If we look, it's the different skin. If we head over here and right click skin and head back to default, we can see that it's the original there. And skin back to minimal. Right. However, this is just a regular control. We want more options. We want to be able to customize this a bit more, as we don't want just static title up here and this readout down here. That our only options are really to toggle them on and off here. We want something a bit more customizable. So we're going to remove the control. And to make a subcontrol, we want to start with an image under subcontrols. And if we look through here, image 2, we'll drop that in. And we're going to open it up with these three dots here. There's a file name, and this will be the file browser. And we're going to hop into, looks like we're heading to the default directory. Maybe I'm not allowed to have these quotations there. All right, but we don't want to be in the default. We want to be in minimal. And we're going to come down to medium knob medium, up, and we can see it's here. Alright, so some things to notice here is that we have the most response here, auto. So it's likely following the text where it's vertical, up and down. The response is up and down. Whereas the original one was rotary. And this is an older style. Some of the first VST or audio plugin softwares kind of responded this way. And it just kind of follows the mouse instead of up and down or left and right. And using this rotary style can be frustrating for users, as the new style is more likely than not vertical, which is up and down. Some of the other options in here are horizontal, so that's left and right, and not up and down. We also have click, which when click it once and it just sort of steps between the first and the last frame. And rotary, of course, is the one we already looked at, kind of follows the mouse, has to go round, right? Round and round. And step is every time you click, it steps through the frames. So we want vertical. Now that we have our image and we have it set to a response, we want to bring in a patch memory float. Now the patch memory float is where the value of whatever you're going to be controlling is stored. And it's also going to keep track of where the indicator is pointing. So we want from animation position to animation position on the image. Now if we move the knob now, if we go to about halfway, if we look at our float value, we're at about 5.2. So we're not precisely halfway, but close. And as we move forward more, we can see it increases or decreases as we move down the indicator. So it's important to have this patch memory float, as this is what really is holding the value. We can see on the patch memory float, it also says value. If we head to our panel, we can now see our knob. And yeah, it responds like that, up and down. Now, if we want to read out, we have to go into conversion here. And we go float to text, and we drop that in between here. Move this over a bit. And we're going to come from value. So we're going to go from value to float value. And then we have our text out. We want a text entry, which is behind my chat here, text entry. Drop that there. And of course, this is the old view. I'm just going to click and delete this and close that. And we're going to head right to the top and hold shift and double click. We are now in the new view. The reason I wanted this view is because we have a bit more grid locking here opposed to the old view. So I'm going to drag from text value to text. And now we can see our readout as we move the knob. And if I head to the panel, we now have a text box. I kind of want to position that underneath and move the mouse. You can also resize it. I want to make it a little bit better here. Shrink it down. What there's good. So as we snap to the grid here, we can turn that off. Go edit and snap the grid, and we have super fluid. However, this makes pixel perfect positioning quite difficult. So I'm going to turn snap to grid back on, and as we snap to grid, we are snapping 8 pixels at a time. So I'm going to shrink this down, and it's good to have an odd number here. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this will allow us to align it up perfectly in the middle. Whereas if we had 4, we'd either be one side or the other. So at 4, I believe that's 4 times 8 would be 32. And now that it's at 5, it's be 40 pixels. And as we know, the knob is 32 pixels. So even though the knob isn't, how would that be, an odd number, it still seems to snap to the middle. So at this point, it's editable. We want, say, a title. We click here and come and type in 5, and it jumps to 5. But we want a title. Like, what is this knob? So we're going to take this text entry. I'm going to right-click, copy, head up to the top here. Let's actually make some room. Zoomed out by using the mouse gesture. I'm using a touchpad, so zooming in and out is the mouse gesture like a phone or mobile device. Pinching and zooming. So I'm going to drop the text entry up here and bringing out a patch memory text. And we're going to come from value here to text. And then we're going to click this patch memory text and we're going to go private. This makes it so the automation cannot be edited or visible by the end user. Whereas the private here is not checked. That means that this can be automated from 0 to 10. So at this point, we want to type in our value here in the value box, and we're going to call this attack. Oops. And we want to head over to our text entry. And right now it's awritable. So we can change this, and we don't want that. Because even if it's attached to attack, and our end user can change it to decay, and that doesn't mean that it's connected to decay. And it can be confusing, or perhaps they just want to type in some gibberish. And on the panel view here, I'm going to move this into place here above our knob. And we're going to give it a bit more space. 1, 2. And there. Head back to our structure view. And in order to turn off the editable ability, we want to click the text entry and turn off writable. Alternatively, we can program the value for the text entry from the patch memory text. So right-click, heading back to the panel, and now it's not editable. We can also change the style here. If we look and we click the text entry, this is how we change its font. And quickly, I'm going to throw up a BRB screen, and I'm going to open up the SynthEdit wiki just to show some of the default text here. So here's the SynthEdit wiki, and I'm going to head into documentation, and here's the defaults here. So we can choose from one of these, and they have to be exact naming. So right now it's set to normal. Of course, it doesn't matter capitalized or not. We want something like, let's say, heading 3. As you can see, there's no white box behind it. There's no background border or no background color. So we're going to do heading 3. And we head back to the panel, and we can see it now has no background border or background color. Squeeze it in a bit closer. Bring this guy up a bit more. And there we have it. We have a standard control. So from there, I suppose we wanted to control something. But before doing that, best practice would likely be to containerize it, just so it's taking up less space. Of course, arrange it a bit better here. And this will come up a little bit. Additionally, in the past, I have also mentioned decimal places. So right now it's at -1, and this will make decimal places as needed. For a second there, we had a pretty small decimal place. Yeah. And if we switch this, we click the decimal, the float to text conversion module, we can change this to 0, and we have no decimal places. However, the value that's in here isn't exactly 5. It's not integer. There's still a little bit here, so 536. And we can also go crazy and say like 5 decimal places, and we've got this huge number here. And that is reflected on the panel as well. So we're just going to set that back to -1. That's an automatic decimal place. I do caution, do not attempt to do -2, 3, 4, or any negative number besides 1, as SynthEdit will likely crash. So on to connecting this. First, we are going to use the bounding box with the left click and highlight everything. And then we're just going to right click any one of the modules that is already highlighted and go into More and Containerize Selection. So now that we have our selection containerized, I do want to put controls on module, and this will allow us to see the control here. And if we go to the panel, we can't see it right now, so we have to go controls on parent. And this will bring it in on the top panel. As well, good practice, I find. I'm just going to right click this container here. I'm going to go panel edit, so that's just this container. So this panel is for the master or the top level. And then if I right click here and go panel edit, this is for inside this panel where I can move things around. So it's a sub container. And what I want to do here is just move things to the corner here. It looks like we have some DSP representations here. I believe that's what those are. And we have to head back to the top level panel, and we're just going to bring that down here. And we have nothing to connect it to. So what we're going to do here is we're going to take this patch memory float, and we're going to connect that out here. So if we close, we now have a value out. However, because this is a float, this makes it so that you can't add things together. I feel the best practice would be to, I'm going to come back into this panel, and we're going to click that line and hit delete. Or alternatively, you can right click, click the line, right click, and delete line. There's other options such as curvy and straighten line. That's just more aesthetic. So I just want to delete the line. So we're going to go a little bit backwards here. We're going to grab from attack, and we're going to put it on the spare. And this gives us a float value. So now, if we want to, we can add things on the way out of the container. It may not make sense to a beginner right now. However, that is good practice, in my opinion. So from there, we have our attack, which is the first part of the sound. So I'm just going to cut this keyboard and shift double click, and we're going to paste this keyboard here, and we're going to connect it up to the MIDI there. Now I'm going to head to the panel and move this up. And I'm going to grab this keyboard and move it over. However, currently the keyboard is a little bit buggy. So I'm going to head into the old view. So I'm going to right click, hold shift, and go panel edit. This brings us into the classic SynthEdit view. And we can now manipulate the keyboard a bit better here. And we're just going to stretch that out, bring this up. Of course, it's not snapping to the grid. So I'm going to head back, close that, and head back to the newer view, panel edit, and we're just going to snap these edges, even though we can't see them. And it should look better. No, it looks worse. Okay, so let's snap some more. Okay, it's fine if it's over. And we're going to snap this one up one. Okay, it's fine if it's a bit over, as long as we can see the majority of it. So we want to do a quick synth demonstration here. I'm just going to quickly save with Control S, and we're going to turn on the synth engine. And I got a message about my MIDI devices and setup, so now we can test. And we can also turn up attack here just to demonstrate that it's working. And get a bit of a pad going. All right. So that is a quick demonstration of how to use custom graphics. I will say a couple more things here. The slider is a bit different. So if we go in and look at the slider here, our text file, we have a little bit different of a layout. So we have type slider. frame size, and then this is the target for the whole thing, I believe. No, this is just the background, and then the handle is everything else. So we got a bit of a space there. And then the handle range is the range of what the movement. So from 1 to 26. That's up and down, I do believe. Orientation vertical. So in this case, say if we were on the horizontal slider, which is here, it's likely we would want that to have, yes, a horizontal response. Back to the vertical one, you can see that it's not a stitched image, it's just one image. So the text file tells it that it's a slider, and the background of the cell or the frame is this part, and then the handle is this part, and then it moves from here to there. So that's what the text file is describing. Alternatively, we have other things such as the switch type. So we'll go to LED, type animated, and it's just frame size. So that'll likely be stepped, or what was the other option? Stepped or clicks. And if we look at something like the bar graph, we said type bar graph, frame size, segment 1 of 6, segment count 9. So that's just defining, the frame size 28 to 60, so it's talking about the bottom part, and then segment is 1 to 6, so it's outlining one chunk, and then segment count 9, so it's telling it that there's 9 6 pixel chunks. And we also have the joystick knob, and type animated, frame size 25, and a bit of padding. So mostly the biggest focus will be the knobs and the sliders. Of course, there's other ways to make bar graphs. Yeah, that pretty much covers most of it. If there's any questions, be sure to leave the comments in comments as well. I guess that's it for this stream. I'm going to move into an advanced topic, or an intermediate topic rather. And intermediate topics are on my Patreon. You can check out my Patreon, patreon.com/JWP Patreon. And this topic I'm going to be moving into is an intermediate topic of reordering pins. So from here, be the end of the video. And until next time.